Crystal, what do you love about reading?
Oh, memories of hiding in my closet and waiting for it to open as I read the Chronicles of Narnia. What do you like about reading, Andrew?
What I like about reading is when the movie version comes out, being able to smugly tell people that the book was better. Everybody, welcome to the Goldilocks and the Three Cares podcast, the podcast where we take a look at a self-published work and look at what was too hot, what was too cold, and what was just right. I'm Andrew.
And I'm Crystal.
And Crystal, what were we reading this week?
We read Project E.D.E.N. by B. Mauritz.
Mauritz.
I apologize if I'm...
It's French.
I apologize if I'm pronouncing it incorrectly.
And where did you find this book?
Actually, the author added me on Twitter. Again, I apologize for completely butchering her last name. I feel like she has a great marketing campaign. She'll say things, or she'll write things like, "Have you seen Cedric walking through your dreams?" Or, "Project E.D.E.N. started mutilating genes so humans could outlive Mother Nature. Then there were side effects." So what I liked is that she does something other than buy my book now, please.
Well, Twitter's 140 characters of teasing. Sounds like the author got it right. Good. Hey, what did you find too hot about the book? What was there just a little bit too much of?
I found that between Cedric, who again is the main character, and his love interest, his need or his promise to protect her or not let anything bad happen to her was just a little bit too repetitive.
So it was a constant thing through the book that they were just telling you over and over again.
Yeah, it was a little bit like a hammer to the head.
And how do you feel as a reader, like when that happens, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times over a certain number of chapters?
I'd rather have the author show me rather than tell me. Through Cedric's actions, I felt like she did a really good job of this. Anytime the love interest was in danger, he was there to help her. So just by showing that action, we knew that he was keeping his promise.
What else did you find too hot?
In a few instances, not very many, his emotions seemed a little too extreme. There's a case where his sister, she's not really his sister, she's sort of part of this family unit that belongs to this other world. She gets a boyfriend and Cedric becomes, enraged. It comes off as a little too possessive to me.
Was that consistent through the other range of emotions, like aggression, like humor? Like were the extremes kind of the peaks and the valleys throughout, or was it just more around kind of the jealousy piece?
Kind of the jealousy piece. So I have a hunch as to where the author is going to this, so I'd be curious to keep reading the other books.
Because this is book one in the series.
Right, yes, this is book one, so I'd like to see if my hunch is proven correct.
And what did you find was too cold? What was there just not enough of?
I didn't get a good enough idea about how much Cedric knew about where he came from. Okay. My impression was that he didn't know anything about where he came from. He just knew that his aunts and an uncle and a sister, they're not actually related to each other, that he was living with them and they were moving from place to place or country to country.
And so there was
not country, city.
Yeah, city. So there was no real discovery.
Right. In the description of the book, you can read that, and it states, he comes from a secret government project that contains a utopian society that evolved without the help of Mother Nature. So the audience already knows, but Cedric never mentions this until the big reveal, which is done later in the book with his love interest. So there's another component to the big reveal that we don't know, but it seems like Cedric should have...
It would have come up. I mean, it's not like in real life where, you can work with a coworker for 2 or 3 years and then suddenly find out at the Christmas party that, oh, hey, we went to the same university, just, we graduated 2 years apart. We never met, but we have this thing in common. If there was a book being written about those two people, you'd reveal that much sooner. Right.
I mean, just for his own internal thoughts, he could be sitting in his classroom and wonder what life would be like living in this other world. What would the classrooms be like? He certainly wouldn't be learning the same material and so on.
Yeah. What else did you find was too cold?
Cedric came across as a very intelligent, very well-spoken young man.
So the writing was good for that.
Yeah, he was very mature for his age, and that came off in the writing. His voice was very strong. But what I found was that this tended to bleed into the other characters, so that they sort of all spoke in the same manner.
So that sounds like, it is difficult for a writer to think as they're typing the next line to disengage from the voice that they're in and re-engage with a new voice, type out the next line of dialogue, and then disengage and then re-engage with that first one. What do you recommend as a writer yourself to be able to make that a little bit easier so the voices don't bleed?
Bottom line, your characters are different people. One thing you can do is turn to the people that you know in your life. How do they speak? Everyone has a cadence to their voice. What kind of cadence do you want your characters to have? What words would they not use ever? What words do they use all the time? I mean, mannerisms are a huge, or not mannerisms. What are they? The
speech patterns.
Speech patterns are common to everyone. I say like all the time, which I've been trying desperately hard not to do for this podcast.
And I say,
yes, you do. You agree with me all the time. So, I mean, you don't want to fill your writing with those types of details, but they're all ways to get different types of dialogue and really state who characters are. I mean, I've had several teachers and read in several places that you've mastered this technique when if you just on a page write different dialogue that your reader can point out which character says which line of dialogue.
Is that often why, someone will read your book and they'll come back to you and they'll kind of elbow you gently and say, Crystal, is this character me? And you say, it's not you, it's in your voice. You're not a Navy SEAL or a knight who fights dragons, but I borrowed.
Right, yeah. Totally.
And what did you find the author got was, just right? What did they absolutely nail?
Cedrics' power is that he's a dream walker, so he can walk through dreams. I thought this was a great concept. I mean, it's something that I wish I could do. If I was a 17-year-old and every time I went to sleep I had the ability to go through people's dreams, I mean, that's sort of cool. That's the ultimate playground, right?
Absolutely. And after Inception, it's definitely something that's out there as a concept for sure.
Definitely. And I don't know what sort of was the influence for this book or the idea of dreamwalking, but if it was Inception, I think she did a really good job of making it her own.
How did you find the description within the dreams? I imagine it was very much like there's two different worlds. There's the daytime world, then there's the dream world. Obviously, if you really like that concept, you found the author did something right with it.
Definitely. The dream world, it was very imaginative. You could really tell you were in the dream world. The landscape would change quite often. Things would fall apart. He was in someone's nightmares. It would,
oh, that would be cool.
These frightening things. He would be involved in the dream, either drowning with, water would come up and he would start drowning and he'd have to remind himself that it was a dream. So while the power is really interesting and fascinating, there also is a dark side to it, which there's a lot that can be done with that. And
how did you find the end?
The ending was fantastic. I thought that it really moved quickly. There was a lot of action. It took place in the waking world, so to speak, and it went in a direction that I wasn't expecting. It's also a great lead up to the next book, which again I would love to read when it comes out.
And again, that book is Project E.D.E.N by B. Mauritz. Who do you recommend reads this book, Crystal?
Anyone who loves a good mystery, anyone who loves genetics, anyone who loves the concept of walking in people's dreams, this would be a great book for you.
And where can we find you online, Crystal?
You can find me on iTunes. You can also find me on my website, www.everythingstemporary.com. I'm also on Twitter. My handle is @everythingstemp. Also on Facebook under Everything's Temporary.
So everybody, that was the Goldilocks and the Three Cares podcast. The podcast where we take a look at a self-published author and what was too hot, what was too cold, and what was just right.
Until next time, keep reading. Be a man, Andrew, and push from your freaking diaphragm.